Hi there! Welcome to Pallet University. There are many different ways to evolve Pokemon, from simply reaching a certain level, to your Pokemon loving you so much, to trading two Pokemon specifically for each other. Even reaching a certain level with your 3DS turned upside down. One of the earliest methods of evolution, even before friendship, was using a certain item on your Pokemon to cause it to evolve. Back in Generation 1, there were only 5 evolutionary stones, but in the over 20 years since then, that has transformed into 27 different items that are involved in evolution. These include the stones, trade evolution items like Metal Coat, and some items that even just need to be held during a certain time of the day when the Pokemon levels up. But like me, you might have noticed that some items are only available in certain regions. Why is that? Well, today we're taking a look. The college store at Pallet University is officially open. We have great merchandise such as t-shirts, hoodies, long sleeves, tank tops, stickers, and even throw pillows featuring designs like our college font logo and our secondary slogan, "In Oak We Trust," as well as the classic Pallet University insignia. Available in a variety of colors and sizes. Links in the description. So, the obvious answer is they just didn't have use for them. Back in Generation 2, Honchkrow and Mismagius didn't exist yet, so why would they code in the Duskstone to evolve Murkrow and Misdreavus? They just didn't need it. But that answer is no fun. So let's try to explain this in an in-world, lore-based reason. In order to make this a little bit easier, let's break down all of the evolutionary items into categories, starting off with the evolutionary stones. Like I said, back in Generation 1, there were only 5 stones, but that is now transformed into 10, being Fire, Water, Thunder, Leaf, Moon, Sun, Dusk, Dawn, Shiny, and Ice. Being that they're all stones, I would assume that they're all some kind of mineral or rock that has special properties that would allow certain Pokemon to progress in their ontogeny when they're exposed to them. Maybe some kind of mutagenic agent, some kind of chemical signal. It's really kind of a mystery onto how stones actually work. Maybe that's a thought for another video. But being that they're naturally occurring, like all minerals are, that's one of the definitions of a mineral, the answer to why some stones are available in some regions and others are not is relatively simple. Essentially, they're just more common in those regions than they are in regions where they're not found. It's no different than, we'll use garnet for an example, because garnet's a mineral that I know and love. Garnet is one of the biggest exports of the state where I live, and really the region that I live. The largest garnet mines in the world are out of the Adirondack Mountains in sort of northern/central New York. Due to really complex geochemical reasons, garnets are very common in the southern and western Adirondack Mountains, but in South Dakota, where I'll be moving in August, they're just nowhere to be found. The right kind of rocks aren't there for garnets to form. If garnet was an evolutionary stone, you'd expect it to be found really regularly at, maybe shops or marts in the New York region, but really hard to find and probably impossible to find, honestly, in the South Dakota region. Put this in sort of a Pokemon context. Think of Mount Moon in Kanto. So Mount Moon is essentially just a great big moonstone deposit. So moonstone is not common in Kanto, but it's certainly, obviously more common than like Dawnstone. So I would argue that there's just no Dawnstone deposits in Kanto, which is why you can't find it anywhere. This principle can be applied to pretty much every stone that doesn't exist yet in that generation. However, in later games, that's kind of solved by having, specialty stone dealers like Olivia's shop in Konikoti City in Alola. Because of specialty shops like this, even if there's not, a deposit of Dawnstones in Alola, this shop can get it for you because that's all they do. You'd have to assume that this shop, would import them from a different region, and that they have the funds and, means to do this because they have things like Megastones as well. So maybe they even import them from Kalos. Maybe there's a pretty good sized Dawnstone deposit in Kalos. So they have strike some sort of, international deal where they, import, Dawnstones as well as the Megastones. Pokemon economics, who knew? So I realized as I was recording that last bit, I'd sort of forgotten about the Oval Stone, which sort of is and isn't a stone, because all of the other stones are usable items, whereas the oval stone is a hold item. You give it to Happiny and level it up and it evolves into Chansey. Even its like item description kind of says it's just a normal rock that looks like an egg, so that could really be found in pretty much any region. You know, rocks get really rounded like that when they're found on the shore of like an ocean or a lake, because the wave motion is what makes them that really rounded shape. So really any region with an ocean or a lake, which I'm pretty sure is all of them, that this could be found in. So these are also rather easy to come by. Okay, so that's stones out of the way, but what about our next category? Body parts. It sounds kind of gruesome when you put it that way, but by all accounts, that's just what they are. In this category, we have the Dragon Scale, Prism Scale, Deep Sea Scale, Deep Sea Tooth, Razor Fang, and Razor Claw. All of these are some kind of body part, mostly scales, and then teeth and claws, I guess, are the rest of them. Things that really kind of regularly fall off of animals. If you have a cat, you've definitely seen like little pieces of your cat's nails just around your house, or at least I know I have. Fish kind of shed their scales. All reptiles shed their skin, so you could probably find some scales from that. So these are just body parts that are just generally rather easily lost, I guess. And this category of items has a really simple answer as well, in that the Pokemon that these items come from just doesn't live in the regions where you can't find these items. You wouldn't expect to find a Deep Sea Tooth or a Deep Sea Scale in Johto if Huntail and Gorbis don't live there. This hypothesis has a little bit of a flaw in it, just because of the Prism Scale. The Prism Scale, if you did not know, was an item introduced in Generation 5 in order to evolve Feebas, because in Generations 3 and 4, you evolved it by raising its beauty stat, which there was no way to do in Generation 5, so they had to give it an alternate evolution method. So just based on, you know, maybe the color and just sort of the item itself, you might assume that it's just a scale from a Milotic, but then why wouldn't you be able to find it in Generations 3 and 4? You know, if there are Milotic around, surely you'd be able to just pluck off a scale from one of them, give it to your Feebas, and have it evolve. So I'm thinking this scale might be from a different Pokemon, and it would make sense for it to be a Generation 5 Pokemon, but I've looked through the Generation 5 Pokedex, and none of them really seem to match the colors. The only one that's close is Alola Mola, and Alola Mola is not really like a beautiful Pokemon, and it doesn't even match completely. It like vaguely matches because the scale's pink but has a little blue in it, and Alola Mola is obviously pink, but it doesn't really have any blue on it besides its eyes, which don't really have scales. So the Prism Scale still kind of gives me a little bit of pause for this one, but the rest of it's rather easily explained, so let's just move on to the next category. Lastly, we have the man-made items, which are the Upgrade, Dubious Disc, Electrolyzer, Magmarizer, King's Rock, Metal Coat, Protector, Reaper Cloth, Sachet, and Whipped Dream. So I'm going to go through a couple of examples here, but I feel like all of these are pretty obviously man-made. The only one that's kind of debatable is Reaper Cloth, because it's kind of like supernaturally, but I guess you could just have it like be possessed by a ghost or something, or like blessed or anti-blessed by like a medium or something. It's not just basically just a piece of black cloth essentially that's got a little spookiness to it, but the rest are definitely man-made. Just as an example, we'll look at the Upgrade and the Dubious Disc, which are both pieces of software on discs that are added to Porygon and Porygon 2 to basically increase their functionality. By the way the Pokedex describes Porygon 2 and Porygon Z, you would think that these pieces of software would be rather hard to get your hands on, because Porygon 2 was designed for space travel, and Porygon Z was designed for interdimensional travel. Neither of them really work as they were intended, but if you were to work out the kinks in their software, then you could potentially use them to travel to space or even ultra space. But being that they're still pretty flawed, you can find them pretty much in any tech-related area in, you know, Gen 2 and later. For instance, Upgrade is always found in Silph after Generation 2, so you can find it in the Johto games and Fire Red and Leaf Green in Silph as well. And then the Dubious Disc is found in places like the P2 Laboratory in Unova. They can also be bought from any of the various places that use battle points as their currency, like the Battle Tree or the Battle Maison, places like that. And honestly, that's just kind of the case for literally all of the man-made items. You can just buy them with battle points. All they are is commercially manufactured items that can just be shipped to wherever they're in the highest demand, which would be where there are more of the Pokemon that they can be used by. So then, Why aren't items like the Protector available prior to Gen 4? Surely Rhydon are just as capable of evolving. If you trade a Rhydon, you know, at this point, you can take a Rhydon from Red and Blue on the Virtual Console, bring it into Sun and Moon, and evolve it into a Rhyperior. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. So why can't that same Rhydon, you know, why weren't there Protectors around if that Rhydon could theoretically have evolved beforehand? Well, since we're using Rhydon as an example, Rhydon and Rhyhorn, as well as pretty much all of the Pokemon that can evolve with, you know, these man-made items, are really quite rare in, you know, regions before their evolution item was introduced. In Generation 1, for example, Rhyhorn is only available in the Safari Zone, which is exclusively for endangered Pokemon, Pokemon whose numbers are really, really low. And Rhydon is only available in Cerulean Cave, the place where literally one person is only allowed to enter. So there aren't going to be that many people running around with Rhyhorns and Rhydons, so the demand for Protectors in Kanto is probably really low. And the same principle applies to Generation 2, where both Rhyhorn and Rhydon are only available in Victory Road. In Generation 3, where Rhyhorn is only available in the Safari Zone of Hoenn once again. Rhydon isn't even available in Fire Red and Leaf Green at all. You can't even find it in Cerulean Cave anymore. If we're thinking of the Pokemon world in a similar way to our own world, most people of these regions probably would never have seen a Rhydon at all in their life, even though it's native to their region. Rhyhorn and Rhydon are still relatively uncommon in Sinnoh. They're only found in 2 locations that are right next to each other in the post-game. So this argument's a little bit weak, but at least they're not stuck in the Safari Zone, so at least they're not endangered? That hypothesis needs a little bit of work too, but I think it holds up overall. Basically, it's all just supply and demand. Places where Pokemon that can use these items are readily available, not endangered, and, you know, can just be went out and caught freely. That was not English. In regions where Pokemon that can use these items are more common, where you can just waltz outside onto, you know, a couple of routes and catch a Pokemon at your leisure, the demand for these evolution items is probably pretty high. But in regions where, you know, these Pokemon aren't as available or are even endangered, the demand's just not there. So they're not available, which is why you don't have the Protector, which is why you don't have the Electrolyzer and Magmarizer in Generation 1. So that covers all 27 of the evolutionary items. Let me know what you guys think about this theory down below. Why are some evolution items only available in some regions, other than the fact that the programmers just didn't code them in? Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Pallet_U, and as always, there's a time and place for everything.